I'm
Hi.
so excited to be having this chat with you. After just talking to Caroline, it got me really fired up and even more excited to talk. So, for all the people listening, this is a really special conversation because, not only is Jenn this incredible powerhouse, she's also a good friend of mine. And, how often do you get to sit up on stage with one of your best friends and have conversation about purpose, change in the world, and doing really cool things? So, Jenn, I'd just love for you to share with everyone about Avana and the company, where you're going, and a bit about yourself.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here and to share this experience with you, Tara. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. So, my name is Jenn Denouden. I am the CEO of Avana. Avana is a private real estate development and property management company that is headquartered out of Regina, Saskatchewan. We are what would be considered an anomaly. We're pretty rare in our industry for a few reasons. We are purpose-led. We are female-led. We were named the 10th fastest growing company in Canada this past year. And we're headquartered in Regina, Saskatchewan with no plans to leave, even with our expansion into other areas of the country. We specialize in developing affordable housing with a specific focus on women and children. And we have a hyper focus on creating housing solutions for women and children who are fleeing domestic abuse. So that's a recap of the company.
Yeah, doing pretty big things in the world. So just this past year, Avana, was named the 10th fastest growing company in Canada. Can you tell me a little bit about that, how you got there, and what it was like to experience that?
I think it's still kind of sinking in that happened. When we started our business, I originally thought of the idea. I convinced my husband, my brother, and my sister-in-law to all come along on the ride with me. And our original plan was to build basically $20 million worth of real estate, and we would stop and manage it as a small, private enterprise, as a family. And next year we'll surpass 500 million in real estate assets. And so I think in the beginning, I just didn't quite realize how much potential we had and how capable we were, and how being so different in our industry, in a very, very male, like older male dominated industry, us being young and female led would create significant opportunities just based on our perspective.
Yeah, and even in that category, there's not very many women-led companies that make it even to top 10, but even in Saskatchewan, right? So if you tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we were the first company in Saskatchewan history to make the top 10 list for fastest growing companies in Canada that was female led. And even after that, only one other company from Saskatchewan has made the top 10. So it was a really significant achievement, and I'm super proud of Avana and our whole team and everybody, that's part of our team, our group, our circle. It was definitely a big moment for us, and even for Saskatchewan. So often Saskatchewan is overlooked, especially in real estate, and I like being able to kind of move the dial a bit and change that view a little bit for our province that I've been born and raised in.
Yeah, that's really great. And we're going to touch on this a little bit later, but I liked this part of your story too, is I do remember you once telling me that, I think, how many properties were you planning in your first year? Like, you were going to build quite a small, 5 portfolio, right? Yeah. And to think of what you're going to have now, like, what does that feel like? And you're a big manifester in every way, I know. So how did that happen?
Again, it's just as we got into the industry and we realized how male dominated it was, and me personally, I've experienced so much sexism and so many negative experiences. Like, I've been called cute, my dreams are cute, like little girl, like literally people say these things to me. And every single time something like that happens, I just want to work harder and get stronger and not even prove them wrong, because I actually don't care kind of about the old boys club, what they think of me. But I want to create such a strong, large platform that will inspire other women to go follow their dreams, regardless of what industry it is. And I want to show men that have these very traditional ideologies that, we need to stop putting people in boxes and expecting them to live a certain way and put ceilings over people. It's just time it stops. And so that's really, after a certain point, what started fueling our growth is that if we can create and use a platform that changes society, that positively impacts things for the next generation, I mean, why wouldn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that it's one of the things that you talk about is like, it's not like, yeah, you've got some secret sauce of how you built your company, but a lot of it has to do with being a purpose-led company, which is your primary focus is to change things, for people and specifically for women and children, right? So I think that's really important. And, Jen and I really bonded. Yes, we were colleagues and we're getting to know each other, but we bonded because we believe that there needs to be significant change and equality in the world. And I, was really inspired. And I think we were just inspired by each other and the change that we wanted to see. But, I learned a lot from you, Jen, specifically about, domestic abuse. And I know this is a really big part of, what Avana does and some of the things you're doing. And I'd love for you to touch on the partnerships that you're creating and those types of things. But one of the things that you taught me is I think that we all have this idea that domestic abuse looks one way. And this is why I think it's so important. This isn't the only reason, but one of the reasons why I think it's so important what you're doing is because, domestic abuse, we all think looks a particular way. So we're gonna go through a little exercise that Jen and I once did together, and it really changed my view. So for everyone watching, I just want you to close your eyes for a moment. And I want you to picture what, there's a woman and a man in a situation and some kids, and domestic violence is taking place. And really imagine what that looks like. And I'm sure if you picture the home that this person lives in, their careers, and how it all came to be, and the domestic violence that happens. And what Jen taught me is it doesn't look at all what you think it looks like. So why don't you touch on that and share with what you taught me about that?
Yeah, I think that unless you've experienced domestic abuse and lived through it, I think people kind of overlook the fact that domestic abuse lives in every single corner of society. It does not discriminate. We have women that we house who were fleeing from their doctor husbands, from their lawyer husbands, the most beautiful areas in the city, the most expensive homes they're fleeing from to save their lives and to save their kids' lives. And I think that we need to, as a society, really look at that and really pay attention to that, especially in our province. Saskatchewan has one of the highest rates of domestic abuse in the country. And that is just unacceptable to me as a woman that's from Saskatchewan. And so, I've personally lived through domestic abuse, which is why, I think it's very near and dear to me and to my heart, because I know what it's like. And people need a safe home to go to. And I hope eventually women, use their voice more and more and strengthen every single year. And we get to a point where equality has been reached and, domestic abuse barely exists anymore. I hope we get there. But in the meantime, we as a society need to do everything we can to fight this.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm wondering if we can go there a little bit. Can you tell me a little bit about, what drives your passion and desire to create change for women in domestic abuse? And if you won't mind sharing a little bit about your story and your childhood.
Yeah, so I, again, personally have experienced domestic abuse. My brother and I had to live through many, many situations. And, it's not, again, how people would think it usually looks like. So I can tell an example of a story. I mean, we're a Caucasian family. My parents both had great careers. We lived in a great neighborhood. And one day, here's just like one example. I mean, I could probably have 25 of these I could share. My dad came home and was drinking and decided to be abusive towards my mom to the point where she was trying to get us and get out while he was cooking shish kebabs of all things. He would literally go in and out from the barbecue cooking shish kebabs. I still hate shish kebabs to this day. And we couldn't leave because he hid her keys. We couldn't go anywhere. And so she had to fake call 911 to order a pizza. And that's what she would do. She would call 911 and pretend she's ordering a pizza, and they would send the cops. And on this particular day, my dad's just sitting next to the barbecue after he had hurt my mom, and the cops came and took him. And I mean, I was maybe like 6 or 7 years old. And so if you consider this, like imagine our neighbors driving by our beautiful home, our life, and there's just my dad cooking shish kebabs. Like, and so I think it's just a lesson that you just really don't know what somebody's going through. And that, again, domestic abuse lives in all corners of our society, and we need to fight it.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for being vulnerable. And I know that it's not easy to share these types of things, but it's also very important, right? Because like we just talked about, we all have this idea that domestic abuse takes place in these dark, shady corners, and that's just not the truth. And it can happen to anyone and anywhere. And there's so many people in need of housing. And more often than not, they don't leave the housing situation because they don't have a place to go. Right? And so I know you know the stats better than I, but a lot of women end up going back because they don't have the proper setup, right?
So I think the number right now is on average 350 women every single night in Canada are turned away from a domestic abuse shelter due to lack of space. Like, just actually comprehend that many women have finally, after who knows how long, found the courage to leave, and they can't leave because they have no options. And so I think, again, this is just a story of, obviously there's more advocacy work to do in this area. Avana, being that we are purpose-led and we are fighting this battle as much as we possibly can, and just looking at that, our priority of profitability is quite low on the totem pole for us, and we still became the 10th fastest growing company in the country. And so it just shows you that you can lead with purpose. You can, have very intentional ways of living and doing business, and you can still be very successful while doing it. And this is why we need more diversity in entrepreneurs, in leadership, in government, everywhere, because I think a big reason that we're so different and we see things so differently is because we're female-led, and females need a seat at the table, and we need to reach equality, because until that happens, we're not going to be a fully optimized, economy, community. Everybody benefits when we give female seats at the table.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to go back a little bit to the story you shared about your childhood, and I want to ask you. So, if you could go back and talk to that little girl, and I'm getting emotional just thinking about it, but to where you are today, what would you say to her, Jenn?
I would tell her that I'm gonna get emotional too now. That I don't even know how to
I'm
answer
crying too.
I would tell her that one day you will be an adult and you're gonna have your own choices. Okay, bring me Kleenex. We're gonna have our own. You're gonna have your own choices. Society is going to try and put a box around you and put a ceiling over you, and you are not going to let them. And you are not going to repeat this cycle. You are going to find a better future for yourself. You are going to make big, bold decisions that people are not going to like. And you will not live this way when you're an adult. That's what I would tell her, because, not knowing that as a kid, you kind of think that this is just what life is like, right? And that's what I would tell her. And I would tell her to avoid some really stupid mistakes, too, I made when I was a teenager.
Wouldn't we all?
Yeah.
But, I just want to say to every person that's listening, and especially the females and other people who are who have been oppressed, as Jenn just shared, you get to make your own story, and society wants us to believe that we have to live a certain way within a certain box, and it's this invisible box, and that's why it's so hard to break, right? It's so hard to break out of the constraints of the way society tells us we have to live, because we don't even see them. But you can live whatever type of life that you want. Your life can happen by design, and it's not easy. And I know that it's not. I'm a privileged Caucasian person, so it's a lot easier for me to say. But you don't have to be defined by your past and your history, and you can make some bold choices and to get yourself out of that situation and not repeat the cycle. And it's really hard. So I really appreciate you sharing that, and you saying that is just speaking to the little girl in me, and I hope it speaks to not even just the little girls, all women who are in a position where they may find themselves unhappy, facing maybe domestic violence or sexism. You don't have to live that way.
No.
Right?
And even not even that. I mean, if you're in a career you don't like, if you're in a city you don't like, I mean, we are not trees. We are easily movable. We just need to move, and we have to have the courage and have the energy to make those moves. And the unknown is scary, but your choice, if you're not happy, is to take a risk to find happiness or just be unhappy. Like, you have no option of winning if you don't take those leaps. And I think in entrepreneurship and in business, it's similar. I mean, you have to obviously manage risk and things like that in business, but make those big, bold moves. Don't worry, like your story recently saying, you lost some clients over sticking up for women. And when did it become bad business to stick up for women? You live in a patriarchal society.
Yep.
When you lose clients because you were sticking up for women. Or, yeah, there's just so many examples. We could go on for days about this, but it's just time it stops, right?
Yeah.
And we need to have the strength, the courage to make those moves and to progress and live our best lives. Like, if you really think about it, you get to live till an average of 85. Like, every single day is so, so important. Life is so short.
Yeah.
It's such a blessing. Every day is a blessing and a gift. And so we need to just capitalize on it, maximize it, and live your best life, which sounds so cliche, but it's true.
It is true. Yeah, I agree. I just feel so comfortable chatting with you, obviously, because we're so close. But as you know, my brother passed away 13 years ago, and it was a wake-up call for me because I was 21 and he was 22, and I realized, oh my God, tomorrow is not promised to us. And you have to live every day like it could honestly be your last. And it's a cliche thing to say, but it's so true. Tomorrow it may not come. And I don't want to be, on my deathbed thinking I should have made some braver choices. I should have, right? I want to be like, it was hard. It took courage. I was afraid. I pushed past that fear. I did the right thing. I lived by my values. And those, let's be honest, those aren't easy things.
No, they're not, for sure. And they're rare, though. This is why you and I think, connected so quickly in business and in friendship. You're the only other person I have met from Saskatchewan that has the courage and bravery to every single day live your values and stand up to what you do not believe in. You're the only one. Like, literally, man or woman, you're the only one.
Well, thanks. And I feel the same about you.
That's why we...
Yeah, it's why we connected so well.
Yeah.
And I hope that, this conversation and the work that we're doing and you're doing really just inspires other women, because we need more bravery. And it's, as I was just sharing with Caroline, the amazing host, oh my gosh, what an incredible woman. But we need more people to understand that it's not easy. It is scary as hell. You're going to have doubts. There's people that are going to leave your life because of these choices, but you're paving the way. And this is a really great segue. So recently you told me what it means to be a trailblazer. And I loved this, because this, just to set this up a bit, whenever you're scared and you're like, this feels uncomfortable, it's because you're on the right track, because it's never been done before. So why don't you share about what it means to be a trailblazer and what you shared with me that was just like, holy.
Yeah, so this was just last week. We've been waiting for a decision on a very, very, very big thing that's going to impact our business significantly. And we've been waiting for 6 months on the decision that will very much like model and fuel our future growth opportunities. And so waiting. And then I realized I was getting frustrated. I was kind of angry. I was having anxiety, and it was just going on and on and on. And I started complaining about it. But then I said, wait a second. And this particular thing, the reason it took so long is we're the first predominant affordable housing provider in Canada to kind of achieve the level that we were achieving. It's never been done before. And so I said, wait, I can't complain about this. I can't be upset. I can't be frustrated, because nobody has ever done this before. And you don't get to be a trailblazer and pave new paths that nobody's done before without having it take a really long time and cause a lot of stress and cause anxiety, because it's the unknown. We just don't know. And we were very fortunate to find out on Monday we have the green light on that, and which means we are going to, significantly expand and continue to build affordable housing with a emphasis on women and children across the country. I would say over the next 5 years, we will have a
Big things.
very big exposure to, like the whole country.
And creating some big change. And
Big change.
I love it because, more often than not, when you hear about women in business, there's very few that get to use their voice, and it's a lot of times because we're told we got to put our head down, we got to just look pretty, sit there, read the prompter, as Caroline said, and that's what we're trying to create change in. We don't want that to happen anymore. We want women to use their voice. We want to seat at the table. We want decisions to also be made by women, and I think that's really important and one of the biggest things that you're fighting for. And I think it's really important to say too, it's uncomfortable at times.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. I could give an example of how uncomfortable. So we, as being part of the new construction industry, and again, we're from Saskatchewan, very traditional place to live and to do business, and the local membership that's for our industry, I decided to sit on the board for 2 years to try and proactively create some change in our industry. It's just too male dominated. There's just too much sexism. So I thought that I would volunteer 2 years of my time, do what I can. And so I spent 2 years, I talked to the board about creating some diversity. And there were literally comments like, oh, we have better things to talk about than diversity. You women are doing so good in our industry. You women, all the time. And so I was feeling quite frustrated with this. And it's like men giving other men more opportunities. I don't know, it's very frustrating. But anyways, we went through a whole International Women's Day without a word from the association. Not a word, not a social media post, nothing. This is the most male-dominated industry in our country. International Women's Day has been celebrated for over 100 years, isn't it? Not a word. So we decided to very publicly terminate our membership and leave the association. And so just to put the, size of move this was, we have been the #1 builder for new permits in Regina for 3 years in a row. So to have the #1 builder leave the membership organization is a huge move. And now the second largest has also left, but that's besides the point. But it was crazy. I had so many people reach out to say, good for you, I feel this way too, this is amazing. But I had people call me and say, your career might be over. I used to respect you, now I don't. You're gonna be left out of city meetings and these meetings and those meetings. You're gonna have to leave the city if you wanna develop in our industry, because you will not be invited to anything ever again. And it was just wild to me, the threats that came in. And I mean, for me, I was like, good, then I'll leave. I'll go to Calgary if I don't care. I'll figure it out. Yeah. But just the fact that was, the reaction of threats, again, similar to you. You sign up for a woman, you get threatened to be sued, which we just did 2 weeks ago. We got threatened to be sued for signing up for something we believe in. And that's the thing. When women use their voice, it's you can almost guesstimate how many minutes it's going to take till the threat of a lawsuit comes out. Yeah, we laugh about it.
Quiet you down.
So for all you men that are still doing this, we laugh about it. It's not effective anymore.
Yeah, we're not scared anymore.
We're not scared.
We're not going back to brunch, as AOC said. We got work to do.
Yeah.
So, and leaving that was a big, bold decision, leaving that group, because you were told and, taught sort of that you need to be part of it, and then it'll push you forward, and, these are where all the people that you are connected to are in this group. And
our whole network.
Yeah, your whole network is part of it. And you're like, I'll just start a new damn network then.
So our mayor, actually, of the city, we were at a meeting recently, and how she described me, which was very interesting. She's like, this is Jenn Denouden, CEO of Avana. And when she couldn't fit into the old boys club, she made her own club. And I was like, I kind of did do that.
Yeah.
And if you look at Team Avana, I mean, it is. We're young and vibrant and energetic and progressive and inclusive, and we have the most beautiful, hardworking, amazing team. And it is it's our own club. And I'm so proud that we, instead of conforming, we just built our own. And it's hard and scary and not easy, but I'm so proud to say we did that. And I can't wait to do it across the country now.
And it's your own club with lots of seats at the table, that there's lots of rooms for diversity and progressive thinking. And that's the kind of table that we need. We need more of those tables, and that I want to sit at, and I hope more people, want to sit at. And Jenn and I worked together on the campaign for Sandra Masters, who is the first female elected mayor of our city in Regina, and so proud to be part of that and working with that on you, but things had to be done differently, and it's uncomfortable and it's scary. And now we have this strong woman who wants to create change, and I think it's really cool to see that unfold.
And can we just say, she was up against a 2-term incumbent, and she got more votes than he and the 2 other males running for mayor of the city.
Yeah.
So she got more votes than 3 of them put together.
Yeah, people are ready for change.
I'm ready for change. And so I think that's what's happening for sure in Regina, Saskatchewan, probably other areas in the country, that there's like this shift. There's still the old, very conservative groups that like the box and like the patriarchy and like things to be done how they've always been done. And then there's this new wave of people like us coming. And I'm so excited about it because I have a 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old. And I literally have like a countdown in my head. I have 13 years until my oldest turns 20. And I refuse to hand society and the community we live in over to her this way. I will not do it.
Yeah.
And so we have a lot of work to do, but we're on our way now.
Yeah. There's so much to talk about, and I just cannot leave off the fact that you have 4 kids that are under the age of 7, and you built your company, and with you as the CEO, and you're also, knowing you personally, are an incredible mom, hands-on mom. Tell everyone about that, because to be honest, I just feel like a lot of women think they can't have it both, and she's showing you can. You've got to be brave. You've got to do things a bit differently. You've got to set things up differently, but you can do it. Share about that and your kids.
Yeah, this usually kind of intrigues people because I have a very strange life. This is actually why I started my business. I was a successful career woman in finance before we started Avana. And the job that I had demanded, 50, 60-hour work weeks, a lot of travel. In fact, when I was pregnant with my first, I traveled, I think, 9 times during the 9 months. And so when I was on mat leave with her, I got pregnant with my second, and I just knew I'm not one to not do a great job at whatever it is I'm going to do. And so I had a husband who was a firefighter at the time, working shift work. I had these 2 babies that were going to be under the age of 2, and I had my career, and I knew I couldn't do it all well. So the obvious choice for me to sacrifice something was my job, but I was unwilling to sacrifice my career. And so I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur because that's the only way I could create the flexibility, but also not put a ceiling on my head and ensure I could still fulfill my potential and make sure I had a successful career. So I picked real estate because it's flexible. You can build, retain real estate. I already had a little bit of experience in doing so. And so I picked real estate out of pure need. And so that's where the thought of Avana came from. And so since we started, I've worked from home and got to raise my kids alongside starting my business. So like literally I'll be like in the middle of a $30 million impacting email and get like, I pooped from down the hall and I have to run and quickly, like it's wild.
Oh yeah.
I'm having like the craziest conversations while like making sandwiches and things like this. But the reason I started my business was to be there for my kids and my husband. And I was never, ever going to veer from that. And so our structure is not traditional in how we run our company, in that the CEO works from home with a whole bunch of kids around. But it's just what I will do. I will not sacrifice being a good hands-on mom. I think being a mother is the most empowering, amazing, important role I've ever held. And so, yeah, I take it very, very seriously, and I will continue to do so until they're adults.
Yeah, that's so amazing. I love that and talking with you about that, because I think it's so important to remind ourselves that life is by design. I often ask people when I first meet them, just to gauge, do you think life happens by chance or by choice? And if they say by chance, I'm like, okay, I got some work to do with this person here. We gotta understand that we're in a lot more control of our life than you want to believe. And so much of our life is by design. I was having a really great conversation with Owen from Indelible, who's here at the conference last night, just about how we create the existence that around us. And it was beautiful and wonderful. It reminded me of your story and how you've had to make really big, bold choices in your life. And they're uncomfortable, as we've said a million times, but your life is by design,
For
right?
sure. Yeah.
So, and talk a little bit about that. Like, you don't get to be, you live an extraordinary life by playing it safe.
Of course not. And this is why I say I don't believe in the box, because the box is not an extraordinary life.
No.
Like, to me, it's just not. And so I think the first step is just in your mind removing the thought that there's this box or there's this way it's going to be or meant to be. We have so much control of every single day. We can pivot at any time. We often come up to forks in the road, and many people to take the easy route, not the right route. And so I just really believe in doing what's right, not what's easy. And I don't believe in being dissatisfied with something. I mean, you have to change, even if it's a relationship.
Yep.
Then you need to work at it. You need to have hard conversations. You need to communicate. Like, we don't need to ever settle. But with not doing that, having those hard conversations or making the hard moves or moving cities because you're not happy, it's tough. It's hard. It's scary. But Chris Nealand and I had a conversation recently, and he said, "You're an example of that. You don't get to have an extraordinary life without making extraordinary, bold decisions and taking risks. You don't get both."
No.
And the beautiful thing about life is we get to choose which
That's right.
it is.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or we'd live without realizing that there is a choice, right? And I'm getting pretty philosophical here, but I mean, this is the conversations that we have. And this is one of the reasons why I really value this friendship. And I think the friendships I have that we create are by design as well. But we don't ever sit around talking about the weather. We're talking about how we can create change. Who has time? Who has time? Or talking about, people. We talk about, what change there needs to be. And this is often, where we go. And I think in society, as we touched on earlier, there's just so many invisible barriers, right?
Yeah.
And people don't even realize that they're there. Yep. And you got to wake up and realize that, you got to live your life.
Of course, just to put into perspective, I mean, look at my life right now. I've got all these kids. I'm a CEO. I have a husband. We're all over the place. Stuff's crazy. It's it's just wild every single day.
Yeah.
My dad, growing up, he was, we had a very traditional, family. He was the breadwinner. My mom cooked all the food, did all the dishes, whatever. And his biggest goal for me was that I could grow up and be a really great housewife, maybe even a farm wife if he got real lucky.
Maybe.
And cook really great meals. That was his dream for me.
Yeah.
My mom's dream for me was to become a nurse.
Yeah.
That was success for me in her eyes. And so obviously did not listen to either of them. But, and those were, two incredibly strong forces in my life, your mom and your dad. And from a young age, I knew, I was like, no, this is never happening. I mean, we also had the domestic abuse complication. So my goal always was to grow up and be strong and be independent and never, ever, ever have to rely on another human being. And I never have, and I never will. So I'm sure that fed into this a bit more as well, but we do have a choice every single day.
And, I think by no fault of their own, because they don't even realize they're doing, but a lot of parents project their fears onto us, right? And then we let it define us, and we think that's part of where the box starts, right? Is there's so much projection on what's safe. My parents, same thing. They thought the best thing that could ever happen to me is get a job in government, get that pension. Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. And it's not because they didn't believe in me or they just didn't know it was possible, because they only know one story and it's their own, right? And so we have to be really careful not to project onto others, because that is very limiting. This is something that they should be teaching in schools.
It is.
Teachers have such an important job at making sure kids understand, and this should be part of the curriculum, you know?
And it still happens to me every single year. When we started Avana, we grew up past what we thought we would. Growing. I'm ecstatic about it because it's so fulfilling to me and fulfilling work. I've had family, even my own business partners, which also is my husband, my brother, my sister-in-law, are like, okay, that's enough now. Like, why? Stop. We don't need to grow anymore.
Yeah.
And so those are ceilings.
Yeah.
And whether they wanted to stop, I don't know their reasons, but
Scary.
probably society taught them to put ceilings
Yeah.
too, though,
Limits.
right? And even recently, like we, again, by next year should pass 500 million in assets. This year, and in conjunction with my family, we finalized a strategic expansion plan to get to $1 billion in assets.
Yep.
So we will probably be one of the first, well, we will be one of the first. We're still doing some research, but we will be a private family enterprise. So that means we have no external investors. We have not gone public, and will be $1 billion value. This is very, very rare. And so when people ask me, well, why? Like, why $1 billion? And my answer is kind of like, well, why not? We're a female-led, purpose-led company. Every time we grow, every city we move into, it creates housing for women and children who need it. It brings in affordable, safe housing options for the overall community. And every time we hit another milestone, we are teaching other women, you can do it too. Because you can. I'm really not that great. I always tell people, like, I'm really not even that smart. I'm good with finance. That's pretty much it. Like, my husband corrects me in words literally every week.
You say that all the time.
No, I have like Google, like when Chris was speaking this morning, I'm like Googling some of his words. Like, I'm actually not that smart, and I'm not that extraordinary. I just believe in myself, and I don't put a ceiling on myself, and I don't put a box on myself, and we go at it and we go get it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Society creates this like idea that these people, the 1%ers, the people who are doing super well in their life, that they've got this secret sauce. They have something that you don't have, but you all have it. Every single one of you has it. Jen recently said to me when I was nervous about something that was coming up in my life, she reminded me of a quote that Michelle Obama said. You want to share that one?
Yeah, somebody asked Michelle Obama once, how do you get used to sitting at the table with all these smart, experienced, capable people? And she was like, well, when you realize they're actually not that smart and capable, it becomes a lot easier. And that's, I think, what we do is we put success and we put these people in high, powerful positions up on a pedestal. And the problem with doing that is it creates this gap between you and them that seems almost inachievable, but it just is not. I'm a big believer in setting goals, setting realistic goals, breaking those goals and dreams down, making a plan, and then like working your ass off. That's all we did. I mean, that simplifies it a lot, but really, that is what we did to get to where we are. That is what we're doing right now to get from, you know, well, like last year we surpassed 200 million in assets, so that just puts a jump to $1 billion. We figure out that we want to do this, we commit to it, we make a plan, we break it down, we work hard, and we do what's right, not what's easy. We give back to our community, and we do it every single day, day in, day out. We do it over again. We're not that spectacular. We just figured out how to do that. And every single person has that in them for what they're passionate about. I truly believe that.
I really love that, Jen, because I think even like for the success I've had in my life, and I know that you see this very the same, is you have to be confident and have a lot of self-worth, because if you humanize people who are doing really great things, you realize that they're no smarter than you most of the time, right? And so a little bit of my story, I was going to start my own conference, pandemic happened, but that's actually how Jen and I first connected. But I didn't know Ryan. I'd come to the gathering. I thought it was the coolest thing I had ever gone to. And I sent him a message on LinkedIn, and I was like, he could have told me to F off. I was like, hey, I'm starting my own conference. I'm wondering if you'd give me some of your time. And he was like, absolutely, I will.
Amazing.
These people are humans, and the people that are doing really great things, more often than not, they want to see other people succeed too. Sure. And you have to be also brave enough to be rejected, because if you love yourself fully and you have self-worth, who cares if someone says no or tells you to F off or doesn't like you? Oh, well.
And you will be rejected.
Yes, rejection is part of the process.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how do you build up your confidence and self-worth enough to go out and be brave every day?
Well, I think, you know, in my kind of late teens, early 20s, when I got to be an adult and take control of my own life, I had a lot of shit to work out, basically, from my life. And I decided, basically, at that time that I was going to find my confidence from within. I was going to set and finalize the set of values for myself, and I was going to adhere to those values every single day. I was going to surround myself by good people, and that built my confidence. And so I think because I don't look for any sort of gratification from external sources, it comes from within. It just, you can go kind of like take on the world.
Yes.
You know, like I believe my happiness is my job. That's not my husband's job to make me happy. That's not my career job. That's my job. It's like how
Absolutely.
I view my life. If there's something I am unhappy about, I will change it. And so I think once you get this inner confidence and strength, as long as you are decision making in a way that's aligned to your values and you can go to sleep every night and feel good about what you did that day, it doesn't matter what people think about you. I mean, just recently I had a hater, and this is the other thing, we're gonna have haters. I had a
Absolutely.
hater, like, it was the meanest anyone's ever been to me in my whole life. The thing she said to me, like,
Yeah.
I'm a joke, and I don't
It was
even remember.
awful.
It was
Yeah.
awful. And like, it was shocking because I'm in my 30s to have that. But we had a conversation. We're like, man, I feel sorry for you. Like,
That you have that
that you
much
have
anger.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, that you have to live with that every day, right? Because
Exactly.
forgiveness is a huge thing, one,
Yeah.
or like letting go. But if someone lives that
Angrily about me.
that's on them.
Totally.
Man. That's on them.
And I believe you should not take I believe you should not take criticism from somebody you would not seek advice from.
yeah.
And that is a big thing. So if you're not somebody I value your opinion and I wouldn't come to you to ask for it, I honestly don't care what you think about me. And I also believe that if everybody does like you, you're
You're doing something wrong.
mundane. You're
Yeah.
mundane. Like, you don't want everybody to like you. You are not standing for something strongly.
Yeah.
I, as a woman, focused on progressing our society and changing the way things have been done in the past, am not doing my job, and I'm not showing up appropriately if everybody likes me.
Yeah, I
And I'm
don't
okay
want
with
to
that.
be for everyone. No one,
Neither do
not
I.
everyone's going to like you, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And just to touch on that too, it's little lessons. It doesn't just wake up one day and you have all this self-worth and you're so brave. It's every day choosing to believe in yourself and choosing your self-worth. Brad from Cult said to me recently, or actually quite a while ago, about a year ago, on a call afterwards, I was like, "Thanks so much for your time." He's like, "No, don't say that ever again." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because your time is valuable too."
Yeah.
And it was such a thing. It's like, right, because when you're thanking someone else for their time, you forget about your own time and your own self-worth. And it's those little lessons every day that it's not just wake up one day, you're this confident leader that's going to take on the world. It's looking in the mirror. It's making hard choices. It's sometimes not even being happy with some of the things that you've got to do, but loving yourself at the end of it. It takes a lot of work to
Yeah.
do this brave work, right? Yeah. So I'm just so honored to have you in my life. And I want your story to be amplified because I think that you will play a big role in changing, honestly, the way our society operates. And that's a very big, grandiose statement to make, but I really believe that. I think that you're made for really big things in the world, Jen. And I'm so excited for the path ahead. We're almost out of time, but there's a couple more things that I wanted to touch on. One thing I just wanted to ask or to share is if there's advice you could give to the women that are watching and who want to take that step and take that chance or might be facing something challenging, if you could give a piece of advice, what would that be?
I think really just to summarize what we've talked about today, believe in yourself, find a way to find your confidence from within. And if you can't do that, work on yourself until you can. Don't stay in situations that you're unhappy with. I mean, I'm all about working things out if it can be, but if you're in a job or a relationship, anything that you don't see a way where it is going to become a positive force in your life, change it.
Yes.
And let's just stop, letting society, again, put ceilings on us and go after your dreams. Let's support each other as
Yes.
women. That's often not what happens too in society. Like, your biggest haters I get are mostly women.
That's right.
Because
That's
we're
right.
doing things differently. And so,
historically, we've been trained to compete with each other, right?
Yep.
And it's, goes back, it's as old as time. And we've got to change that. We talk about that all the time. We got to build each other up. We got to support each other,
Yeah.
and that's really big. And, one of the things I'd say too is part of this, and something you and I talk about often is, first you have to believe it's possible.
Yeah.
And we're big into like manifesting our life and, and I think everyone should be because basically manifesting is just believing that you can.
Yep.
And so if you can imagine it and dream it, you have to do that before it can be. And so think big, think bold, imagine yourself in big, bold places, make brave choices, figure out what your values are, live with integrity, right? Well, thank you so, so much. I'm so honored to be sitting up here with you and
Thank
to
you.
be experiencing this with you. So proud of you. And I cannot wait to see, I'm getting emotional, to see, where life takes you. And no matter what, I'm just very honored to know you. So
Me too.
thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank
This
you.
has been fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of the gathering, everyone.